Well, so we're 3 minutes into this, and I just found out there wasn't any sound. So, Tiffany, hopefully you can tell me if there's sound now. I had the wrong microphone chosen. Now I feel very silly. But anyway, we're talking today about Christmas traditions. I don't have a guest for Defying Expectations over 60 this week. It's my last broadcast for the year. I'm going on hiatus for a couple of weeks. I'll be back January 2nd with Defying Expectations Over 60, and I already have a guest lined up for that one. So, someone I know you're going to want to hear from. But today, instead of interviewing somebody, we're going to talk about Christmas traditions. Those of you who stuck with this when there was no sound at the beginning, we'll talk about Christmas traditions. And I was starting a story about how my father was a Protestant minister when I was growing up, and of course he's retired now, but he still is one. And we would go to Christmas Eve service when we lived in Wisconsin. So this is when I was a teenager. There was a Christmas Eve service. There was a Christmas pageant, which, recreated Mary and Joseph coming into Bethlehem, and there was singing and all that kind of stuff. Well, then between the pageant and the Christmas Eve service, which was at 11 p.m., we'd go off and have a meal. And actually, the co-minister where my dad was in Wisconsin, it was his birthday on Christmas Eve. So often we would go to Harry's house or someone who's having a little party for Harry, and we'd have a little Christmas cheer. And as we got older and we became of drinking age, we would, a lot of my social life when I was a teenager revolved around the church and the group of kids that went to church, and, we hung out together. And so as we got older, we would all sort of gang together because all of our families were going to Christmas Eve service. And if we'd had a cocktail or two, we got a little bit rowdy as we got older. We became of drinking age. And I remember one time at the Christmas Eve service, my dad glaring at me from the pulpit because we were being a little distracting. I think we were giggling and maybe, telling stories between the group of us. And anyway, we got kind of an earful at the end of that night. It was distracting and, of course, rather embarrassing to him that his kids were causing a ruckus. And we were certainly old enough to know better. So anyway, we'd go home after that, and we would open our presents on Christmas morning, not on Christmas Eve. So we'd go home, go to bed. And when we get up in the morning, my dad would make a big breakfast, which I love. Dad still makes breakfast when I go to visit him. And me and all my friends that come with me to Boise, Idaho, where he lives, to visit him, will say, what's Doug making for breakfast today? But when he first married into our family, my father died when I was very young. When he first married into my family, I was 10. And my sisters and I were accustomed to getting up on Christmas morning and running down to the tree and seeing if Santa left anything for us. And, he was kind of slowing us down. He's like, nope, we're going to have breakfast first. And that did not go over very well in the beginning, but we all got used to it. And it became a really lovely tradition. Like, what are we going to have? He'd usually make something really fun and delicious. So those were some of my traditions when I was growing up. I realize I come from a very privileged family. Not everyone has had the opportunity to have presents and to go to events and that sort of thing in the season. And so I recognize my privilege in telling that story. I do want to talk about a more recent tradition. So about 8 years ago, some friends and I started a Santa Con. So some of you may live in a big city where a Santa Con is a thing. It stands for Santa Convention. And basically what it means is everybody dresses up like Santa and goes out on a pub crawl. Now, some cities like San Francisco and New York, they have tens of thousands of people who show up, and it's a bit of a drunk fest, like all day long. Starts, early in the morning. We don't quite do it that way. We get together with, 8 to 10 people, and we go out for dinner, and then we just find some places in Scottsdale, which is near where I live, to go out and have a cocktail. And we all dress like Santa. I'll post some pictures in the comments, so you can see what some of the photos from the last few Santa Cons have looked like. But it's one of my favorite events of the holiday, because we just get to dress up and be silly and, wear our best Santa costumes. I have this onesie, this Santa onesie that I wear. I think it's supposed to be pajamas, but I put some warm clothes under it, and I wear it out for SantaCon. So SantaCon was actually last weekend for us in Scottsdale. There were 8 of us, and we had a blast. People ranging in age from 21 to my husband, who's 64. So we had a really good time. Anyway, I hope that you are thinking and planning for your Christmas traditions. If you don't have any, now's the perfect time to invent some. Traditions have to start someplace. So you can always just decide on one that you want to implement, and go from there. Even if you're alone, it could just be a nice long bath and reading a book and looking out the window. Or it could be getting together with friends. I know folks who don't have family, or don't have family that they want to spend Christmas with. A lot of them will make arrangements with some other family to go over and have a meal. So I hope that whatever your traditions are, if you celebrate Christmas or any other holiday around this time of year, I hope that they feed you and they make you feel comfortable and loved. So happy holidays from me and my husband, Mike Jeffries. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas season, and I will see you again in January with Defying Expectations Over 60. And if you're so inclined, leave a comment about your favorite Christmas tradition, either now or growing up, or holiday tradition, I should say. It could be for any holiday around this time of year. I'm thinking of you, and I'm so appreciative of everyone who watches my live stream every week, and even just occasionally. If you're watching the replay, put a hashtag replay. If you're watching live, put hashtag live. And you can always find me at https www.couragerises.life. Couragerises.life, Life. Happy holidays, and I will see you in January. Cheers.